sponsors certainly help us determine what the quality of your experience will be at our Fort Adams Race Festival, and then again in Bermuda at the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club. So thank you. You want me to start again? Okay. So I guess we get to do a redux, okay? Hopefully you don't have to restart the race. We like people starting, don't OCS, okay? Very expensive in this race. It's 30-minute penalty. Thank you for joining the 5th of our race prep series for the 2026 Newport Bermuda Race. I'm Patty Young. I'm the vice chair of the race for this edition and also the chair for participation. To date, we've covered everything in these seminars, from lessons learned in 2024, things you could do way in advance, such as insurance, crew prep you can work on this season, and strategy during the race for the Gulf Stream weather and navigation. Tonight, we're going to address how to get from the entry to the starting line with a focus on safety, entry, and participation. I'm joined by John Burt, who is our chief inspector, and Dexter Hoag, who is the entry systems chair. We're each veterans of this race, having done it many times. So please ask us all your questions, and among the three of us, we should be able to answer them all. Now to our sponsors. So the weather determines what you'll experience on the race course, but the sponsors help us really put the race together and help us work to give you a big quality product. So you have a big party, or your friends and family have a big party at the Fort Adams Race Festival, and then again, you have great festivities when you arrive at the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club in Bermuda. Okay, participation. Everybody asks me, what does participation do? I don't get it. Well, beyond the obvious of recruiting boats to the race, we're here to get you to the starting line. You know, you talk about entering, but there's a lot to do between the talk about it and getting to registration and getting to that starting line. These conversations have been going on for months already. They'll increase once Dexter turns the key on the system. And we're there along the whole process when anybody has questions or need assistance. For first timers, we have a thing which is rather unique to Bermuda Race, which is called the Ambassador Program. In this, we assign, if somebody wants it, and you can sign up on the website, you are assigned an ambassador. It is somebody who's a very experienced Newport Bermuda racer, and it's a great resource to gain direct insights into expectations, boat prep, the inspection process, racing conditions. You know, I always ask the question, what am I not asking? Ask your ambassador. We're extending it this year to teams who've done the race 1 or 2 times, but realize maybe they could use a little more support. Maybe they missed some things and they know that other people are doing things differently. So if you reach out using the Ambassador Program tab and ask for one, explain you've done it before, we're happy to assign somebody to you. You know, people always ask me, what can I do to make it easy? It seems so complicated, so daunting. Just start early. Just start way early so you have time to deal with everything. Time to embrace what is required so that it's just coming naturally to you. You're not rushed. Track your deadlines. They're very clear in the entry system. Put them in your calendar so you're not surprised. Familiarize yourself with our entry system. It is there as an aid. It is not there as a job. If you learn how to use it, it will send you reminders. It will tell you what you need to do, what your crew needs to do, what you've done. And in the end, you know, if in doubt, ask. We're basically here to answer your questions and demystify what seems so mystifying. So that's what participation does. It tries to make you happy through the whole thing. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to John Burt, who's going to go through the new safety guidelines.
Thank you, Patty. I think that's a very nice segue. I think that the rules and the safety requirements can look a little daunting. They're having just finished writing them and polishing them over and over again and looking at how many words are, it seems like a lot. But if you start early and you pick away at it and you don't wait for the last minute, you're going to find that it's a manageable amount of work. So we posted as of yesterday morning, no, yesterday during the day, I think, we posted the notice of race and the NBSRs, which are the safety requirements that you'll go through for the inspection. And what I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about are things which are brand new for this year, and then also a little bit of a reminder of things that we sort of pre-notified you all about in the 2024 race cycle in those set of rules. So on the Bermuda Race website, as you can see from the screenshot that is up at this point in time, the safety requirements have been posted. You can go there. And then if we can switch, Kate, to the next slide here, I really want to talk about the big, we're going to go after the big one first here. Given what we learned coming away from the 2024 race and the incidents that were observed and felt, and the Alliance sinkings and other technical reports, the Bermuda Race Organizing Committee felt really strongly that we needed to add in some instructions and some inspections and some processes around taking a long look at your keel and your rudder. These are systems that they kind of hide. As soon as you put the boat in the water, you don't see them. It's not like a line that frays or chafes. It's out of sight in some cases, and it can be out of mind. So we've added two new rules. They're numbers 212 and 213 to the safety requirements. They really talk about just what I said. They talk about inspecting that rudder, inspecting the keel. We've put a form in along with in Appendix 3 that will kind of guide and govern what we're doing. At the time of the inspection process, we're going to expect that form to have been filled out and then uploaded into the system. So this is our compliance mechanism, if you will, to let us go here. And I would really strongly encourage people to read through those technical reports that were issued by the Bermuda Race Organizing Committee and by U.S. Sailing in conjunction with each other, because there's a tremendous number of lessons learned, and they point in a lot of ways to what we've done here to make sure that we're getting good inspections and we're getting a good sense for what we have that will it makes our boat go forward, that makes our boat stay on our feet, and that makes sure that we can steer no matter what the weather conditions bring to us. So this is the big new one. It was not premised anywhere in the earlier information, so I just want people to be really focused and aware that rules 213 and 212 are new, that are in here, and that there's a lot more information wrapped around Appendix 3 than there used to be, including some language statement from the Bermuda Race Organizing Committee and including this form. Beyond that, there are a number of rules that we either let people know we're coming and coming into play for this cycle, or we have actually added a little bit of new language because the world has shifted under our feet a little bit, and it's really an important piece. For starters, we talked about the dewatering pump in 2024, and this is it's an electric pump as opposed to just the two manual pumps that we've required in the past. It's designed to buy you time in the event that something happens on the boat. It's about a 3,200 gallon per hour pump, which equates to around 50 gallons a minute. You need to be able to get at all the compartments of your boat with it, and it's really there to augment the other systems that you might have. There are ways to look at it. I'm not going to get into details here, but there are ways that you can use more than one pump to meet this need. You can do a mobile pump to meet this need. So there are a number of different ways to go about it. But the dewatering pump is something that we're going to be looking for, that we talked about in 2024, and we're going to make as a requirement this year in 26. There are a couple of things that are wrapped around purchases. So, as our gear wears out over time, we need to get new systems and updated systems. And one of the big ones that's coming by U.S. Sailing in 2028 as a requirement, and we've decided that if you are making a purchase in the future, that we should have that be part of the purchase, is that your EPIRB needs to have AIS transmission capabilities. A lot of lessons learned and a lot of value was found by the Alliance crew and by the Kaylee crew when they were trying to help Alliance in 2024 by the fact that that EPIRB that they set off had an AIS signal too. And it made that last leg of getting people help a whole lot easier. And so this is a great safety add. It's not something we're going to require you to go out and buy brand new, but if you're going to make a purchase between now and the Bermuda race, we strongly encourage you to get one with AIS. And if you buy it after January 1st, we're going to require that it's got AIS in it for this year. Additionally, and another lesson learned that came from the last race is we would like the satellite communication system to be set up to be able to send and receive text. And so I don't really know of any systems that are out there in the modern world, including the rentable satellite phone systems that are there. Texting is an ability that's already really inherently there, but we want to get the boats ready so that they can use that as an alternative means of communication if noise is too loud or the signal is less consistent than it might be. So we're going to be looking for people to get their satellite communications able to be texting in and out in 2026. And then a bit of a preview facing forward for 2028, we expect that we've already previewed a little bit that the MOB button, the man overboard button on the GPS for double handers needs to be accessible from deck. What we don't want to have people do is have to go below or around a corner or lose track of how the boat is behaving, especially when double-handed, if they need to get access to their man overboard buttons. So as you're thinking about designs of your systems, as you're thinking about where your emergency gear is, for 2028, we're going to be requiring that the double-handers have their man overboard button up on deck without going below. So those are the big changes. The keel and rudder inspection is probably the big noticeable one that's there with the most change in it. And then these 4 that you can see on the screen now are other ones that are also incorporated. In the FAQs that are on the Bermuda Race website, we've done a little bit of prefacing of all of these, so you can see a bit of a summary of these listed there in case you're looking for a place to start when you're going through the NBSRs. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dexter to talk a little bit about the entry process.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, John. My name's Dexter Hoag. I'm the entry chair for the Bermuda Race. And what I do is I'm in charge of collecting all of the information that the entire race committee, organizing committee needs to execute the race. So I look at collecting that information between now and through the completion of the on-site registration, collecting the information about the sailors, the boats, and about the race entries. So I'm just going to show you how we get into that system and where that information, how it's organized as for the sailors who are accessing that system. Like most things for this race, always start with bermudarace.com. From bermudarace.com, I have a screenshot of the entry screen here. Under the resources is the entry system guide. There are 2 ways to get to the entry system itself. Either the sailor portal in the upper right corner of the screen is always visible. And if you're in the entry guide page, the entry portal will take you to the same place. We'll talk in a minute about how sailors need to get in this portal, as well as everybody who's managing an entry, whether you're a skipper, an owner of a boat, or just somebody managing an entry on behalf of a skipper or an owner. As you scroll down the entry guide page, below the entry portal button, you'll see the actual entry guide itself. As you scroll down, you see that entry guide. It gives us a step-by-step process for getting through the entry process, starting when we open for entries on Friday, all the way through checking in for registration and coming out to the starting line. We've broken it down into 16 steps, which are roughly in the order that they should be performed. Some things you're going to have to start earlier, things like safety inspections. While the inspection itself won't get done till much later in the process, the preparation for the inspection, as John has just talked about, should already be starting now. But we have laid it out sort of in the order that the information tends to get collected by the system. We set it up so that you can access this guide right online. Each of the steps that are shown on the screen here is hyperlinked to more details about how to do that step. And then at the top of the screen, you can see that there's also a button to download a PDF version of the guide so that you can keep it. You can print it if you want. You can make notes on it as you're working your way through that guide. What many people find is that with the nautical cloud entry system that we're using, once you get familiar with it and once you start using it, you really don't need a step-by-step guide. The system will tend to walk you through what's the next thing that you're going to need to do. And when you're logged into the system, it will be a natural progression of filling out the different types of information that's needed. So with that in mind, I just wanted to talk about how the information is organized and what are the types of things that we collect. Once you click on either that sailor portal or the entry portal, it'll ask you to create an account. And then once you create your account, it'll present you with the competitor agreement with the standard legal questions that are legal agreements that we need for any of our typical racing. Accepting that agreement allows you to then continue on into the entry system and provide information about yourself, about your boat, and then if you're entering the race, then you provide the information for the entry itself. As it says here, the entry system, we're using the Nautical Cloud Race Management System, which once it collects this information, it integrates it into mobile applications, the web portal, such as the notice board and the online entry list, and ultimately the scoring. It's all put in there, and we'll see it in real time once the racing gets started. During the entry process, we're collecting three types of information. We collect information about the sailors that are doing the race. We collect information about the boats that are doing the race. And then we have specific information about the race itself. As it says under my account, every sailor must have an entry system account. As I mentioned, that's our mechanism for having everyone complete the competitor agreement. And then we collect your basic personal information, name, age, emergency contact. But then we also collect information about what you have done to prepare for the race. And whether you are a skipper or a crew member, it'll acknowledge or it'll accept your certificates for safety at sea, certificates for medical training, and other types of information, your emergency beacon that you may be carrying, all that information that's specific to you as the sailor. The next thing we ask for is the boat. We need to know what types of boats are racing and the various information about the boat, including what's the rating certificate of the boat, and does it have the safety equipment, and what's the construction of the boat. So that's collected under that My Boats tab. And that'll be once you enter your own information, the next thing you'll enter is about the boat if you're entering a boat. And finally, you'll go through the entry process. One of the unique things about the Bermuda race is that this is not a race for beginners, as it says in the preamble of the notice of race. So while anyone can submit themselves for entry and can start the entry process, you must eventually get to an offshore experience form to provide the information to our qualifications committee that you have the experience to race the race safely. And at that point, they will extend you an invitation to race based on what the experience that you provide is. Looking briefly into each of those three areas of information. The first one, the My Details section, you can see on the screen here, we have the basic My Details that get filled out. And then down the left-hand side of the screen, are additional details that that you can click through, including things like passport information and the certificates for safety at sea and medical training that you're going to upload. Moving on, so before I go on, every sailor completes that information. The only sailors that have to have the actual boat information and entry information are those who manage the entries and those who are entering boats. If you are a boat owner or chartering a boat, otherwise managing an entry, you can be given access to enter the boat details on behalf of the entry, on behalf of the owner or the charterer or whomever else. We can share that access for you. And that all is in the entry guide. Within the boat information screen, you'll see the basic information about the boat, the name, the size, the sail number, things like that. But then across the top of the tabs at the top, we have information for checklists, for shoreside contacts, for life rafts, for AIS and EPIRB beacons that are carried by the boat, as well as some optional information like the boat profile, and where you can put information that you want to make publicly available about your program and about your boat. And then you can't have a race without sailors on boats. So in order to, once you enter the Newport Bermuda Race or initiate entry, it'll start taking the information that it has about your boat and about the sailors that you are report as crew for the boat and combine them into an entry. This is where you really start working through that checklist of items that need to get done. This is the entry status screen. The basic list of tasks is underneath a tab called tasks. And we've organized these tasks sort of like the steps of the entry guide to show up in roughly the order that you should be focusing on doing them. On this screen, we can see that the first thing that it's in red for a task is that this entry needs to designate a reserve person in charge. In order to ask for an invitation to race, you need to have a person in charge and a reserve person in charge designated. Those are the folks that the qualification committee will evaluate. So there are various ways to get to it. You can click directly on the crew tab at the top, or you can click on the quick fix, which will take you to that crew tab and lead you through adding a reserve person in charge. The next step that it'll get you is the next line on the list, which is to complete your offshore experience form. Again, that's highlighted in red at the top, showing you that it's something that needs to be done. And then and you can click on that, fill out the experience. If you have recognized experience, such as having completed the last race, you'll automatically be granted an invitation to race. If you haven't done the race before and we need to know a little more about you, it'll ask you about it and you'll complete that offshore experience form and proceed through the rest of the entry process. The yellow tasks are optional. They're recommended, but optional. So you can fill those out when you need to. And finally, the blue items are information that says this is a task that the race committee or the organizing committee needs to complete. So while it's a task that needs to get done, you as a competitor can't complete it. And it will, once the organizing committee takes their action to check the information, that those blue tasks will go away as well. Ultimately, when you show up for on-site registration in Newport, the goal is to have all of these red tasks completed and off the screen, and then you'll know you're ready to go. The last thing I wanted to talk about is checking on your crew status. From that entry status screen in the upper right corner is a button called the crew checklist. In this case, you can see I've added myself and my alter ego, Captain Hoag, as the crew for my entry here. The green circles show that I've completed most of the requirements for what I need for this race. And the red circles show that my alter ego, Captain Hoag, has done anything. He has not logged in. He has not signed the crew waiver, and he has not provided any of his details yet. So this is the checklist that you can use to remind your crew of what they need to do to be ready to race. They are seeing the same list of information. They have the same tasks showing up when they log in. So they should be working through it, but this way you can remind them and chase them down if you need to. And to conclude, I just wanted to highlight the top 5 list. As I've said a few times, all the sailors need to create an account. When you identify your crew, you will provide an email that goes directly to that crew and says, hey, please create your account. And once they have their account, then you can add that to the crew list for that person to the crew list for your entry. The first things you're going to need to do are get that offshore experience form completed so that you can get that invitation to enter. The third thing is, Patty has already mentioned, there are a list of deadlines. They're clearly stated in the notice of race. The entry system is there to assist you in complying with all the requirements of the notice of race, but ultimately the NOR is the governing document. And you must comply with the rules there. Finally, make a plan to start completing things early. The first few steps go quickly and are easy to do. The later steps, getting training done, getting measured for rating certificates, getting world sailing categorizations, all involve back and forth with various other authorities and take time to prepare for and then ultimately execute. And then finally, as we saw in the last couple of screens, just go to that task tab and it'll show you what's still outstanding for you to do next. The system will also send you emails. They will be coming from the address racing@bermudarace.com. So even if you're not logging in, as long as you've set that email address to not go to your spam folder, you'll get reminders by email that these are the things that you have left to do. And I will be sending out through the course of the entry process things that people are falling behind on and things that people should focus on next. And with that, I look forward to seeing everybody at the starting line.
I'm just going to ask to Dexter's, if you have done this race before, if you did the race last year, you will already be in the entry system. So all you need to do is go into your account and just review it and confirm that everything that's in there is up to date. If you raced last year with your own boat, your boat is in there. Same thing, you just have to update it. So everything is kept. So it's not like you're doing it again and again. Yeah, do everything early. Everything takes longer than you think. And with that, are there any questions? Well, I see somebody asked, I'm getting everything done early. What can I get done early? Like, when can I apply for a rating? You can apply as soon as the year turns, and as long as you're not making any changes to your boat, correct, Tom?
Are you talking about from like a ORR rating?
Yeah. As long as you're not making any changes to the boat, your sail inventory is remaining the same, you're not doing anything, you can just hit the renew button.
That's my understanding, right? If you're not changing what you had, go for it as soon as the year turns.
That's what I did last year. And if you're getting new sails, put your orders in early so you get the sail measurements to U.S. Sailing early. Everything matters. The other thing is, look at that inspection schedule. You're going to have to schedule it. And I would do that as early as John will let you, just to get it out of the way. Because if they find anything or highlight anything that you're not comfortable with, it'll give you time to fix it. You don't want to be doing this in June. You want it out of the way. That's how to answer the question on doing it early.
Okay.
And you guys think it's questions that we should answer? Okay, well, I hope that you all, go ahead. Okay, so you should go to World Sailing. And I can't remember the URL right now, but it's pretty self-apparent, and just Google World Sailing. Okay, great. So go from there.
It's also in the notice of race. Yep.
If you go there, you need to see what it says. You need to look at your expiration date. Your expiration date is after the start of, after you would finish racing. So if your date that it expires is June 22nd, you better get a new one, because you will not have a valid one throughout the race. The other thing is, sometimes the category is blank, which basically means you got messed up in the system, in the layman's terms, and you need to get a new one. So just see if you can reach out to them and renew. If you feel thwarted on this, I actually have somebody who has volunteered to help people through this process and work with you with World Sailing. It's gotten better. I'm not going to tell you it's ideal. If you start early, though, it's fine.
And Patty, those World Sailing
Sure. I mean, the FAQs, I think, are wonderful because you use the search function. You just type just about anything in there, and you're going to get to the area you need, especially for the safety regulations. It's very helpful. If you're asking the question, probably somebody else has also asked that question. And we, as organizers, will endeavor to use that document to answer questions so that everybody gets the same information. Yeah. But on World Sailing, I would encourage anybody who is not getting an approval coming through, or they're just getting blocked, and it didn't happen as much last race as it did the race before, just reach out to us and we will do our best to help. And we need,
I would add to that, Kate, that just because there's an ambassador program, it doesn't mean that there aren't lots of people, all of whose names you see here, who aren't willing to help and answer questions. We're invested in making sure that people can understand all of the steps in the process and can get to the starting line. All of us are.
Yeah, we don't want people throwing their hands up in the air. Okay, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your time. We know you're all busy. Bar's open.